everyone, and welcome to Life with Aprons. Today I want to show you a way that you can take all those apple scraps from making applesauce and apple pies and whatever it is and turning them into something useful in the kitchen. Join me. Today is all about apple scraps and what you can do with them. I don't know about you, but I hate throwing things away. I'm a pretty practical person in the kitchen, so when I have scraps from making tomato sauce or scraps from making apple pies and applesauce or grape juice, whatever it is in the kitchen, I always like to know that those scraps are going to a good purpose and that they're not just going to be thrown in a trash can, in a plastic bag to be put in the landfill. Now, if you have chickens or pigs, you can throw them to the animals, and that is another way that you can use those scraps. Or maybe you have a compost pile and you can throw them in there and they can bring nutrient-rich soil in the future. What I love to do is to be able to use them just one more time in the kitchen. And that's what we're doing today with our apple scraps. I could easily throw these to the pigs, but before, I would like to find one more use for them. I have a pile of these and more to come because this week is all about making apple pies, applesauce, apple pie filling, and so much more. In light of that, we have bushels of apples and lots of apple cores, so I'm going to need to turn them into something else before they go to my animals. And I have just the thing to do it. Apple scrap vinegar. Yep, that's right. You can take these scraps and turn them into an apple vinegar, much like the apple cider vinegar you get at the store. The only difference is you're using the apple scraps instead of apple cider. You can use apple cider vinegar, apple scrap vinegar interchangeably and use them for the same purposes. And this is something you can make at home. And this is something that you can make just from scraps that you would originally be tossing. So we're gonna do it today. And I'm gonna start by washing these apple cores. If you've seen in the video earlier, I had some wonderful helpers, but they put my apple cores on the deck. So we're gonna go ahead and wash them really quick and get them ready for the jar. I'm just gonna pour these into my colander here and make sure there's just no debris, no dirt, or anything like that. Now, let's talk about what part of the apple you wanna use for apple scrap vinegar. Because this is a concentrated amount in a jar and you're fermenting, you never want to use anything that's been sprayed with pesticides or anything like that when you are fermenting. That goes for any kind of fermentation. Now, these apples came from an orchard in the mountains and they did spray, and that is why I am only using the cores. There have been a couple years where we have gotten apples from our neighbor and he has not sprayed. In that case, I will use the peels and the cores. So it really depends on where you got the apples. Were they sprayed or were they not sprayed? If they were sprayed, you want to just use the cores and the pieces that don't have all the peel on them. If they were not sprayed, you can use all of the apple. All right, these are finished and we're going to get them in the jar. All right, here we go. I'm going to move my coffee. If you haven't noticed in my videos yet, I usually always have a cup of coffee with me. It's one of my special treats, and I believe in one episode I'm going to show you how we make our coffee at home, because I'm going to tell you it is better than Starbucks or any other well-known coffee shop, and my husband makes it. It's one of the treats that I get every day from my husband, and so I want to share with you how we do it because it is so good. It just needs to be shared with the world. All right, we've got our cores ready. I have a 1/2 gallon jar here that I'm going to fill about 3/4 of the way full with apple cores, and then we are going to put our liquid over top of that. It doesn't have to be a mason jar because we're not going to be processing these. It's just going to be sitting in a dark place for a couple of weeks. You can really use any jar you want, an old pickle jar, whatever. If you don't have that many cores to fill up a 1/2 gallon jar, you can use a quart jar or a smaller jar. What I used to do when I would only get apples occasionally is I would take the cores and I would put them in a freezer bag and just freeze them until I had enough to make a large amount of this vinegar, and then I would pull them out and use them. You can also do that. All right, this is filled up. The next thing is my solution. When we are making apple scrap vinegar, we need something for the bacteria to feed on. And so we're going to add some sugar to this. Now, do not be alarmed by the sugar, because in the final product, that sugar is not going to be there because the bacteria is going to eat on that sugar. Hello! This one just got up from a nap. Can you say hello?
What are you doing with
I am making apple scrap vinegar.
Did you make them a juice?
It's not a juice. It's apple scrap vinegar.
Okay.
Okay. So I am going to put a sugar solution in there, but again, it is not going to be in your final product. This is just to jumpstart the fermentation process. You're going to have a ratio of 1 tablespoon of sugar to 1 cup of water. This is going to need about 4 or 5 cups of water, so I've added 4 to 5 tablespoons. And I've already got this mixed up. You want to make sure that your sugar has been dissolved before you put it in your jar. And you're just going to put it up high enough to cover. Now don't worry if there are a few floating cores in there. If it really bothers you, you can put a fermentation weight on there. I have one here to show you. This is a fermentation weight. It's just a solid piece of glass with a little lid that you can lift, or a little handle there that you can lift. You can put that down in here and it will push those cores down. I haven't had a problem with my cores coming up. I don't get any mold or anything like that. So I just leave them the way they are. But if you like, you can get one of these. This is from Mason Tops, and I use this regularly for my ferments, anywhere from green beans to peppers. If you haven't seen my video on fermenting green peppers, that's a good one too. And it shows you how to use a whole bunch of peppers and to ferment them, and it's great for your gut health. So check out that video. But in that, I believe I do use these. I'll put a link in the description for these. I really do like these a lot, and they're great for other fermentations. But for this one, I'm not going to need to use it. Okay, I've got my sugar-water ratio in there. I'm going to get a cotton cloth. You can do linen or cotton or whatever fabric. We'll put it over this. I don't want to use a plastic lid or a metal lid or anything like that, because I really want all that air to be, going back and forth through the fermentation process. I've got a rubber band here just to secure it, because the fruit flies do love this stuff. And if you do not secure it, they are going to get into your apple scrap vinegar. All right, this is all ready to go. This needs to be placed into a cool, dark place. I place mine down here in the back of this cupboard, and I let it sit for 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks process, I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to strain all those cores that you see in there, and then I'm going to put it back in the jar. And then I'm going to put the cotton lid back over it and the rubber band and secure it. And I'm going to put it back in that cabinet over there in the dark for 2 more weeks. And after that, I'll smell it. If it smells that vinegar smell, I mean, you know what apple cider vinegar smells like, then it's ready. If it's not quite, if it's a little off, you may want to leave it there a little longer. A lot of it depends on your kitchen. So think of the 2 weeks as like a loose guide, and you want to just check it and just to make sure. I have a warmer kitchen, and so my fermentation happens pretty fast because of how warm my kitchen is, but yours might be a little bit different, and that's okay. If you pull it out and it smells off and you're like, oh, I messed this up, do not give up. Try again, put it back in there, check it in a couple days or a week, and you'll start to smell that sour, vinegary smell to it. I'm going to show you guys one that has already been fermenting for 2 weeks now. I just took it out of this cabinet and I just strained it, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so this is 2 weeks and it has been strained, and if you can see down on the bottom there, that is what we call a SCOBY. And if you're familiar with SCOBYs in kombucha, it is a good and healthy thing. It just means that your fermentation is working. It doesn't look super great. It's like this gelatin-like disc that forms over the top. This one has sunk to the bottom, but it forms over the top of your fermentation, whether it's kombucha or this. But that is a really good sign that it's healthy and it's working. And in the final product, you could strain the SCOBY out if you like. I keep mine in there because, like I said, it's really healthy. It's actually healthy for you to eat. Now, like I said, it's this gelatin-like thing. So if you've got texture issues like I do, you're probably not going to want to eat it. My 4-year-old actually eats it and she loves it. And it's so great for her body and it's great for her gut health. But what I also like to do, because I can't seem to stomach it, is I like to put it in the dehydrator. And I dehydrate it and give it to my dogs as a treat. And that way they also have good health and they actually like it. So it works out really well. So that's another way that you can take a scrap and turn it into something else, a dog treat. All right, I'm gonna put this back on because again, this needs to go for 2 more weeks. It's starting to have that vinegar smell, but I'd like for it to be a little stronger. So both of these are going to go back in the cupboard in the dark, and then I'll check them periodically. And I'm gonna keep making this vinegar, and I'm just gonna store a whole bunch because again, like I said, I like to use apple vinegar in the kitchen for lots of things. We even use it for our animals. We use it as a fly spray for our cows to keep the flies off in the summer. I use it to soak my grains and beans so that they're more easily digestible. I use it to clean the countertops. I use it to make gummies in the wintertime for my kids so that their immune system is built up. I use it sometimes in place of lemon juice when I don't have lemon juice. There are all kinds of purposes, and what I like about this is not just for one thing. You can use it for many things. I hope this video was helpful to you, and if you have any questions about the process that I did not cover, please put them in the comments. Or if you try this and something didn't quite go right, ask a question in the comments and I'll get back with you. What I love about this is that I get to use my apples just one more time for something that is super useful in my kitchen. And yet again, it's one less thing that I have to rely on the grocery store for, that I'm empowered that I can make on my own. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe and stay tuned for more great videos.